Before you had words, you had receptors. Before you had logic, you had instinct. That means before you ever knew what love was, you were already deciding if it was safe to need it. Some children grow up in thunderstorms, others grow up in drought. One gets chaos, the other silence. But both leave the same scar: hypervigilance. You learn to monitor the room before you entered it, to rehearse your tone, to shrink, smile, please. Because back then, survival meant being digestible. People don't question what's always been. If no one ever said, "I see you," you won't notice the absence until much later, when you flinch at compliments or feel guilty for resting. This is the trap of emotional neglect. You don't get bruises, you get blueprints. You grow up building a life around what others expect, while your real self sleeps in the basement, unheard. Fast forward to adulthood. You're functional, employed, maybe admired. But deep down, you don't relax. Not really. Not fully. You feel safest in control. You can't say no without guilt. You over-explain. You overachieve. And sometimes, you quietly disappear into yourself because attention feels like exposure. That's not personality. That's programming. Here's the truth no one sells you. You can heal. But not by going back. You go forward by reparenting, moment by moment. That means becoming the voice you never heard. I'm safe now. I don't need to perform to be loved. I can rest without earning it. It's slow, it's messy, and it's powerful. 4 steps toward freedom. 1. Name the echoes. That inner voice criticizing your body? Not yours. That tension in your jaw every time someone's upset? Not your responsibility. Awareness is the first incision. 2. Learn safe intimacy, connection without caretaking, vulnerability without performance. Start small, 1 honest sentence at a time. 3. Stop explaining yourself. Your worth doesn't require a PowerPoint. Not everyone deserves access to your reasons. 4. Create a ritual of repair. Not perfection, repair. You'll fall back into old patterns. That's okay. The goal isn't to be flawless. The goal is to return to yourself faster each time. You don't heal to become impressive. You heal to become real. The day you stop asking, "How do I become who they want me to be?" and start asking, "Who am I when I'm not afraid?" is the day your true life begins. Not everyone will understand your journey. Some people needed you broken, but that's their story to finish, not yours to carry. There's a reason your present feels like a puzzle with missing pieces. Most people don't grow out of their childhood. They grow around it, like trees bending around a broken fence post. And while you learn to survive, you never really learn to be. What does love feel like when it's not conditional? The child in you is still waiting for answers, and the adult in you is still avoiding the questions. 8. Why self-sabotage? Is self-protection in disguise. You call it procrastination. You call it laziness. You call it fear of success. But what if those aren't defects? What if they're shields? You don't resist success because you're weak. You resist it because success comes with visibility. And visibility once meant vulnerability. And vulnerability once meant pain. Your nervous system isn't malfunctioning. It's protecting an outdated version of you, a child who couldn't afford to be seen. Every time you sabotage yourself, ask, what am I really trying to protect? The answer will feel ancient. Your mind forgets, but your body never does. It remembers the quiet in the house after your parents fought, the feeling of your voice catching when no one was listening, the survival skill of being easy to love because being real was too risky. You don't need new affirmations. You need new signals to your nervous system. Safety is not an idea. It's a felt experience. And if you've never felt safe in stillness, you'll keep chasing noise and calling it productivity. 10. The illusion of fixing yourself. You are not broken. You are adapted. Everything you think is wrong with you was once the smartest choice you could make with limited tools. You learned to shut down, to dissociate, to please, to disappear. And now, as an adult, you criticize the very tools that once kept you alive. Healing isn't about fixing the self. It's about thanking the self that survived, and then teaching it a new way. Here's the paradox. The pain we understand often feels safer than the love we don't. That's why people stay in relationships that shrink them. That's why they sabotage new opportunities. That's why they run from peace. It feels like a trick. We are creatures of pattern, and what's familiar becomes sacred, even if it's harmful. You won't break free by shaming yourself. You break free by building a new emotional home, one where joy isn't a visitor, but a resident. Imagine this. You walk into a room, nothing's wrong, but your heart's racing. Why? Because your nervous system is using old data to assess new moments. This is the root of anxiety. Your body is time traveling, scanning for threats that aren't there anymore. The solution isn't calm down, it's update the file. Let your body know, that was then, this is now. I'm not 7 years old anymore. I'm not powerless anymore. Say it, slowly, daily, rewire the signal. When no one mirrors your worth as a child, you grow into an adult who doubts it exists. So even when someone genuinely sees you, your first instinct is suspicion. Do they want something from me? Will they leave when they know the real me? Is this love, or am I being tricked? You're not afraid of being unloved. You're afraid of being loved and then abandoned. That's a wound, not a flaw, and it needs compassion, not perfection. This isn't some TikTok therapy trend. This is the foundation. Reparenting means becoming the adult you needed, consistently, relentlessly, gently. It's not about blaming your parents forever. It's about recognizing that you were raised by people who didn't always have what you needed, and now you're the only one who can give it to yourself. You become the one who says, you don't have to perform. I'm proud of you just for resting. We don't earn love anymore. We return to it. 15. How to begin the real healing process, step by step. Here's what works, not overnight, but over time. Step 1. Build micro moments of safety. 1 deep breath, 1 unclenched jaw, 1 reminder, I'm allowed to exist without being useful. Step 2. Practice boundary setting without apology. Let your no be complete. You are not required to explain your value. Step 3. Speak to yourself like someone worth loving. Every critical voice inside you was learned. Unlearn it, line by line. Step 4. Choose relationships where you can be unmasked. If love demands a mask, it's not love. Find stillness, not performance. They're still here. Every time you shrink when you should speak, every time you laugh to cover pain, every time you say, it's fine, when it's not, that's them. You don't need to go back in time to heal. You just need to show up in the present with enough love to hold their story differently. Sit with your younger self. Literally, imagine them across from you and say, you shouldn't have had to be that strong. You didn't deserve that silence. I'm sorry no one came, but I'm here now. Repeat until something softens. In a world that rewards productivity, performance, and perfection. The greatest rebellion is to rest, to feel, to be whole. You are not a machine. You are a mosaic of everything you've endured. You are not behind. You are unlearning. You are not broken. You are becoming honest. Not everyone will understand this version of you. That's okay. You're not doing it for everyone. You're doing it for the version of you who waited decades to feel safe in their own skin. In childhood, Silence is rarely a choice. It's a shield when a child doesn't speak up. It's not because they're wise beyond their years. It's because they've learned speaking creates danger. Being small means being powerless, and powerlessness teaches you to adapt, not to express. So when you see the quiet child, don't assume maturity. Often, that silence is packed with unmet needs. Questions never answered, fears never soothed, joys never mirrored. As that child becomes an adult, the silence calcifies. It becomes stoicism, overfunctioning, emotional minimalism. People call them strong. They nod, smile faintly, and keep going. But what they've built isn't strength. It's armor, and it's heavy. We admire the hyper-independent, the ones who never ask for help, who shoulder everything. They seem invincible. But that kind of independence is often born in neglect, not in confidence. They learn to survive without support, so they never learn to trust it. Being let down enough times conditions the nervous system to rely only on one person, yourself. They don't trust love unless it's earned. They don't feel safe unless they're in control. They don't cry unless they're alone, if at all. They believe needing others is weakness, because once needing others caused pain. This is the tragedy of emotional isolation. You don't know you're in it until someone shows you what safety actually feels like. Many adults walking around today have no memory of emotional safety. They remember events, birthdays, trips, achievements. But they can't recall being held during sadness, or having someone say, "You don't have to earn my approval." They can't picture someone sitting beside them without fixing, judging, or leaving. And here's the hidden consequence. When you've never felt secure love, you start to believe it doesn't exist. Your nervous system becomes suspicious of calm. Affection feels foreign. Kindness feels manipulative. So you push it away, subtly or aggressively. You ghost. You sabotage. You find flaws. Because deep down, something peaceful feels unsafe. And what's unsafe isn't the other person. It's your own unfamiliarity with being seen. Every child creates a version of themselves to stay accepted. If your parents only praised achievement, you became the achiever. If your feelings were too much for them, you became chill. If they mocked vulnerability, you learned sarcasm. This version of you, the one that kept peace, made people laugh, stayed out of trouble, wasn't fake. It was adaptive. But the longer you live through the adaptive self, the more you lose access to the authentic one. You forget what you want, what you feel, what you need. And slowly, you mistake the performance for the person. But here's the truth. If your authenticity threatens your relationships, the relationships were built on illusion. And the longer you maintain the illusion, the more isolated you become, even in connection. Here's something people rarely talk about. Some survivors become too self-aware. They dissect every thought, track every emotion, overanalyze every interaction, not because they're narcissistic, but because growing up, their environment was unpredictable. So now, they use analysis as control. I felt hurt, was that okay? I cried, was that weakness? I said no. Was I rude? They don't trust their instincts. They need confirmation that their feelings are valid, because in the past, those feelings were dismissed, punished, or ignored. So they overcompensate with logic. They use psychology as a shield, diagnosis as identity, and self-awareness as permission to exist. But here's the thing. Self-awareness without self-compassion is just another form of self-rejection. You can read all the books, go to therapy, talk about your inner child fluently. But your body still knows. It knows when the room goes quiet and your chest tightens. It knows when someone's tone changes and you scan for danger. It knows when you're offered love, and you feel the urge to run. That's not irrational. It's residue. Trauma isn't just about what happened. It's about how your body had to adapt to make sense of what never did. So healing isn't about convincing your mind. It's about teaching your body safety again. Slowly, gently, with patience. We glorify endurance. We admire those who push through. But survival isn't a badge of honor when it costs you your selfhood. True strength isn't suppressing tears. It's allowing them without shame. It's not always showing up. It's knowing when to rest. Letting go of toxic coping doesn't make you weak. It means you've outgrown the need to armor your softness. The goal isn't to stop hurting. It's to stop pretending the pain doesn't matter. You say you want connection, but when it gets close, you freeze. You crave intimacy, but pull away when someone stays too long. This is the paradox of attachment trauma. You hunger for what you fear. You're not bad at relationships. You're navigating a landscape where love once came with strings, affection came with debt, and presence came with pressure. So now, healthy love feels like suspicion. You wait for the shoe to drop. You scan for betrayal. You test, sabotage, disappear. But what if the problem isn't that you're broken? What if it's that you're still using yesterday's map to navigate today's world? You don't need to be better. You need to be safer. And sometimes that begins with just one moment of staying, when every fiber in you wants to run. You'll have days where you feel invincible and nights where the same old triggers pull you back. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. Healing happens in spirals, not steps. You return to the same pain, but with new insight, new strength, new boundaries. You don't erase the past. You reclaim it. You don't pretend it didn't hurt. You stop letting it define you. That's progress, even when it's invisible. If no one ever taught you emotional language, you have to teach yourself. If no one ever modeled respect, you have to embody it. If no one made you feel seen, you now give that gift to others. This is the quiet revolution of healing. You stop recycling harm. Comment below, where will you show up next? With intention, not instinct? Share this with someone who's learning to live by their own mind. Subscribe if you're building silent strength with us.